Hey, what is going on, everybody? In today's video, I want to talk about all things related to legendary characters. And this video is going to be aimed more towards the early and mid-game players, as we're going to discuss the merits of each of them and whether or not they're still valid or not in today's roster context. Now, there might be some parts of the video that might be useful for late-game players, but I expect a lot of them have been around for a while to have invested in most, if not all of these at some point, like myself. The goal of this video will be really to figure out who out of all of them are worth raising and gearing still, primarily to the max state. So we'll be talking about this in the context of sort of level 80, gear tier 14, 15, that kind of thing. And so the goal of this will be really to figure that out. As we move closer and closer to the inevitable level cap and gear tier increase, I think that's really important. So buckle up. This might get a bit contentious when we talk about certain characters, but hopefully everyone comes out the other end with some stuff to think about. So without further ado, let's get this show started. And so we're going to start things off here in the legendary part of the roster. I filtered for all of the characters here, and we have a total of 12 legendary characters. Now, we're not going to go in depth about the specificity of each character, but we will be talking about them from beginning to end. So I do want to start off with the, actually, minus Iron Man. Okay, we're not talking about Iron Man. He's trash. He's still trash. I wish he got a rework, but, it's not happening right now. So he's basically skipped. He's hardly a legendary character. So really, the first one we're going to be discussing is Star-Lord. I'm pretty sure he was the second legendary character. Is he still worth it at all? I don't really think so. He should be permanent. That's what I was about to say, is that I don't know why, at this point in the game he isn't. I'm actually really surprised that Nick Fury was made permanent before him, even though he did not come before him in the release method. The only real thing I can think of is that, if you wanted to run him alongside Gamora, you could do this, but I really wouldn't go out of your way to unlock him, because I just don't think that he really does much there. Now, if you happen to have missed Phyla-Vell or Moondragon or anyone like that, you might be able to fit him into this sort of, Infinity Watch or Gamora Watch, whatever you want to call it, because she is the main carry of that team, and he does give 30% damage and 20% speed to Gamora. So if you're really just trying to power up her, you could slide Star-Lord in there still, but I really, don't go out of your way to get him unlocked at 5-star. I just really don't think it's worth your time anymore. So that's all I'm going to say about Star-Lord, really. Nick Fury, this is an interesting one for a couple of reasons. I do have the fancy costume. I guess that was the first patch with the costumes. He is permanently farmable, sadly with cream minions still, so it is a bit of a pain in the ass to get him unlocked. I do have him from legacy reasons. I've been playing for a very long time, so, that's how I managed to get him. But I actually don't think that Nick Fury is all that good. I say that I have tier 13. I did use him in Dark Dimension 2 back in the day, because really, realistically, there wasn't a lot of characters to use. This was pre-Minerva. This was pre a lot of characters where Nick Fury was still valid, and I actually used him alongside Shield Security. So, yeah, back then, he was useful. But now, I really can't really suggest using him. But this is kind of interesting, because there are some people who believe that he does have merits in Doom Raid, in the skill lane, and there has been some rumors that he might actually be the unlock or usable in some unlock fashion for the next legendary character. A lot of people kind of gathered this because of the Envoy video of the Secret Avengers containing Nick Fury and Kestrel. We're going to be talking about this in a separate video because I don't want to derail this entirely, but I don't really plan on taking Nick Fury up unless I really, really have to. If there's a reason for me to do it, I will do it. Other than that, Nick Fury is very expensive on the gear side. He is like skill hella. He requires 5 sets of minis, and it's just a lot of gear to invest in him to get to like tier 15. And for what reason? The skill lane for Doom Raid specifically is it's very flexible, and I don't really see him using him in other raids. I don't see him using in Dark Dimension anymore, and Arena either. So therefore, he's kind of out in my opinion. Moving on to the next one after that, I think we have, if I remember the order of events, I think it's Magneto, but I'm not entirely sure on this one. Magneto, again, this will be very quick. He is useful in some degrees for war, but other than that, not very much. I actually have him on the war defense instead of Sabretooth for my Marauders. Now, That tells you all you really need to know. I don't think there's any real reason that you need to have Magneto geared and leveled up, unless you're someone like me who just, really likes Magneto because I took him to gear tier 14 because I had 6 reds. But other than that, he doesn't really have a lot of use, so I admit that I probably wasted a lot of gear in him that I didn't need to anymore. So unless, and feel free to correct me in the comments down below if you feel that I'm just kind of skipping over certain aspects of characters. But in terms of where I believe legendaries need to be useful, it's either going to be Arena, it's going to be Raids, and Dark Dimension. One of these three, I think if they're not at least in one of those three, they're probably not worth it at this point. So Magneto gets the skip as well. Moving on to, I don't know in which order. I think it might be Shuri, but it could be Invisible Woman. But let's talk about Invisible Woman really quick. So this one's really interesting because Fantastic Four actually does have a lot of sections where they pop up in the campaign. So I want to bring this one up specifically because I believe there are sections of Doom Raid, and I think it's Nexus. I wanted to say the Thanos Unlock node, but I don't know if that's the one either. I think it's in Doom Raid specifically. There's Fantastic Four sections, and that's where you might still get some use out of Invisible Woman. But in terms of other places for Arena, Raids, or Dark Dimension, you really don't need to use her. I did bring her up to Gear Tier 15 because I already had her at Gear Tier 14 for Dark Dimension 3, and so I just decided to carry on and do her for Dark Dimension 4. But there are other characters that you can do, and you don't actually need a full 5-character slate for the Dark Dimension 4 Legendary lane. I'm not sure it's entirely necessary. So yeah, kind of neat character, but I don't think it's entirely necessary at this point. If you're coming up the way, you're not quite level 70, or maybe you're just reaching level 70, that 75 range, I would unlock Invisible Woman because she's fairly easy to unlock with the Sinister Six. But I think the only context where you might need to use her might be for campaigns, specifically for the Fantastic Four section. I believe it might be, I forget the exact traits without looking at it. But other than that, I don't really feel that she's all that useful in the end game, so therefore she doesn't need to be really geared up all that much. Now we're going to pivot really quickly to Shuri. We're getting closer to the second half of basically the legendary unlocks. Shuri, now this is an interesting one because I do have her at 7 red. So where is she useful? We do know right off the bat that she's useful for the Chaos Theory Flash event. Now is that worth taking her up much further? I would probably in that context only take her as high as you need to for this. Is she useful in Arena? No. Is she useful in Dark Dimension? But you don't really need her, so there are other characters that you can choose to do instead, and especially in this context, she is global, and so for Dark Dimension, there are other global characters, especially this patch with the Secret Avengers. If you really want to invest in them, they would probably be better long-term for something like Dark Dimension 3 global, and for Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, she wasn't on that list either, as I don't have her at Gear Tier 15. Now, for Raids, this is going to be an interesting one, because she is useful in Doom Raid tech. But I think that she's going to be slowly sliding off because I believe that for me, I've ranked her at basically character number 5. And so what that means for me is that as soon as somebody else comes out that's better, she's probably going to get the boot. And I think that means that it's probably not that far around the corner. And I think that we're going to start to see more characters for Doom Raid, specifically probably Tech, Mystic, and Bio later on. And that's probably also a separate video as well. But what that point is that basically that Shuri might be usable now, but is she going to be usable by the time you get to Doom Raid? Probably not. And when I say you, I mean collective you. If you're in that sort of early and mid-game stage where you're still months away before that, or maybe even more before you even get to Doom Raid, then this isn't Shuri's not really a character that you really need to think about in that context, because by that time, probably there's going to be much better characters for you to think about. So do take that with a grain of salt. Of course, I still use her currently, though, but for how much longer, I don't know. And I don't think it's going to be too much longer personally. Now, moving on after Shuri, I guess that naturally brings us to Phoenix. I think this brings us to Phoenix. So, yes, is she usable in Arena? Not really. Maybe occasionally in a mid-game context, even then with 4-Watch or Gamora Watch, Kestrel, whatever you want to call that. Probably no. Is she useful in Raids? Not really. Is she useful in Dark Dimension? Sort of. She's useful in Dark Dimension 3 Global, and she's useful in Dark Dimension 4 Legendary. Quite a bit, actually, in my opinion. Do I think that you should go out of your way to unlock Phoenix? No. And so basically where this gets us to, and especially in the context of the Phoenix event, I think running like right now, basically, the next time she'll come around probably will be about 3 months' time. So Do I think that you should go out of your way to unlock her? No. And what this really means is that if you happen to have collected the characters that you need to unlock are the villain mystic controllers, which is like Loki, Hela, Nobu, Mordo, and a few others. There's the Hand Assassin, and I forget the other one off the top of my head. Oh my god, I can't believe... Ronin. I don't know why it took me a while to figure that out. So, you know, if you happen to collect the shards for these characters along the way, and you're close, you know, let's say you're like 5-star and you're close to unlocking her or something, I would then go for it at that point. But, you know, realistically, because I think the only places you really need to use her at this point is Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, that doesn't really mean that you need her at this time. You know, by the time you get towards Dark Dimension 4, if you feel you need her and you still don't have her yet, then definitely go for it, but do not make this a priority by any means, because she's not all that necessary for other things in the game. Now we get up to what I want to talk about, Black Bolt. Now this is really important, especially when we talk about the next two, Black Bolt and Ebony Maw. So I'm going to make this very short and sweet. I think a lot of people are going to be unhappy with what I have to say. I do not think that Black Bolt is worth getting. I don't think that you should even unlock him unless you really... sorry, I don't know what I was about to say. No, you don't need to get Black Bolt, and the reason why this is because you also don't need Ebony Maw, and this is going to be very contentious. If you have Ebony Maw now, great, build him. But if you're someone like my baby account, if you're in the 4 to 6 month, you know, account range, or just coming up the way, I have a very, very strong feeling that even characters like Ebony Maw really aren't going to be that useful. But let's start off with Black Bolt and the Inhumans. Where are you using him? Arena? Nope. Raids? Probably not. There's probably better characters. Even the 4-watch characters as cosmic characters are better, in my opinion, than the Inhumans. I say 4-watch, 5-watch, however many watch members you have, you know, they are going to be better for cosmic than Black Bolt and the Inhumans. Are you running him in Doom Raid? Definitely not. Are you running him in Dark Dimension? Definitely not. I mean, I did. I have him at tier 14 because I did run him in Dark Dimension 3 Cosmic, but at the end of the day, he's just damaged, so I would say no. Are you going to run him in Dark Dimension 4 Legendary? No. And so that answers all the questions that you need to know about Black Bolt. Is he worth building? Not really. I have him 7775, but he was very good at the time, but he's not so anymore. And this leads us into talking about Ebony Maw, because you need Black Bolt to unlock Ebony Maw. So let's do that. Is Ebony Maw worth it now? He's usable in some places. Is he useful in Arena? No, not anymore. Not really. Raids? Doom Raid Mystic, currently. But I say currently because as we get more power creep, more characters unlocked, inevitably we're probably going to see more Mystic characters. We might even see a Mystic raid team. That means that Ebony Maw is slowly going to slide out of that position probably as well. Is he useful in Dark Dimension? Yes, to an extent. You know, but, you know, with Infinity Watch being a cosmic team, that's basically like 3 birds with 1 stone. You know, Infinity Watch is great in raids, they're great in Arena, and they're great in Dark Dimension. You can run them in 2, 3 Cosmic, 4 Cosmic, and it's fine, because other than Adam Warlock, who you don't really need for the full team, you know, they work just well. So, do I think that you should go out of your way to get Ebony Maw, which also means unlocking Black Bolt? I would have to say no, because not only this, now we're talking about 10 characters, right? We're talking about the Asgardians that you need to unlock Black Bolt, and then we're talking about the Inhumans that you need to unlock Ebony Maw. And so the Black Order team is it passes expiry as a team, but individually, Ebony Maw, while he is good now, I think that power creep is going to start to come up quicker, and that you're going to see him kind of get benched within the next 4 to 6 months. And so if you're someone who's close to unlocking him now naturally just through shard accumulation, that's great. And if you want to build him, that's fine. But I'm trying to give advice and suggestions to people who are maybe on their way up, who are really unsure about what characters to focus on. And personally, I think Ebony Maw gets that pass for me for that reason, but I know that's going to be contentious for some. Now this brings us to the last 3 characters that I want to talk about, and that's Doc Ock, Jubilee, and Adam Warlock. So we're going to talk about Doc Ock. Now, Doc Ock, I actually have a personal love for Doc Ock. I do love him. You know, I love the Sinister Six. But that aside, you know, is he useful in Arena? Not really. He was very popular in the Arena Hybrid team because of his passive, because this blocks off offense down. This is a very good way to counter the Ebony Maw in the Black Order because it would block, where is it? Somewhere at the bottom. 10,000 resistance to all allies outside of the Sinister Six as well against offense down. Is he usable in raids? He is actually very solid in the Doom Raid tech. He's actually one of the most important members there, I think. And outside of that, no, not really, I would say. Is he useful in Dark Dimension? Maybe. You know, he has City, so you could use him in Dark Dimension 3 City. That's fine too, outside of some of the symbiote characters rather. Dark Dimension 4 Legendary? Absolutely. So Doc Ock is one of the few characters that can sort of heal a little bit outside of the drain mechanics because of his Sinister Recharge. This is on a low cooldown and gives 3 regenerations to everyone on the team. So I think, yes, he is still good and still worth it. And I think going forward, we're going to see eventually more Sinister Six members come out, more chargeable Sinister Six characters, maybe by the end of the year because of that Spider-Man movie coming out. Hard to say, but I think that's highly possible. Now, let's move on to talk about Jubilee. Is she an arena? No. But she is a heavy raid legendary. And so with Astonishing X-Men, who are slowly becoming farmable, we have Iceman on farm, we have Beast on farm, and I think we're going to get Kitty Pryde very, very soon. And we're probably not too long off of Bishop, who's currently in the RTA. I think within the next month we'll see Bishop as well. So what that means is, you know, Jubilee and the Astonishing X-Men are very, very solid. They are a very strong raid team, whether it's Ultima 7, whether it's Doom Raid Mutant. Very, very important. And in for Dark Dimension 4, she actually does really well in the Legendary lane. And when we finish with everyone else, we're going to talk about my top 4 characters really quickly that for Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, since we're talking about that, and a lot of people think about this possibly in that context. So moving on to Adam Warlock, he is the most recent character. Now, I know not everyone is going to have Adam Warlock unlocked. I think there was actually a good percentage of people who did, possibly a little bit more than Jubilee, or maybe just as many as Jubilee, I'm not sure here. But, you know, he wasn't, you know, if you farmed correctly and you used a lot of power cores to farm Polaris's node, I think this was highly possible. Adam Warlock isn't actually all that necessary on the Infinity Watch team because they're just as good without him. However, he just really elevates that even more. So is he useful in Arena? Yes, because of the Infinity Watch team. Is he useful in raids? Not so much in Ultimus. I don't think you need to, but if you're using the Infinity Watch team, then yeah, you can use him in Ultimus 7.5. Is he useful in Doom Raid? Yes, he's useful in Doom Raid Mystic. I use him there as well. Dark Dimension, again, if you're using Infinity Watch for any of the Cosmic sections, for 2, 3, not for 4 because of the Legendary lane, but you can use him definitely hands down in the Dark Dimension 4 Legendary lane. So he ticks most of those boxes for me. I'm not specifically talking about War because realistically most of these characters can be used in War. So my main priority is Arena, Raids, and Dark Dimension, and he ticks those boxes for me. So that brings us to sort of the conclusion here, is sort of, if we were talking about in the context of Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, which characters would I want to use as my 4 if I was coming up the way? You know, I'm not talking about right now, although we could. So for me, it would be Phoenix, Jubilee, Doc Ock, and Adam Warlock. Now, the Phoenix part is a bit contentious because, again, I said no, don't chase after her. But if you are all the way up to Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, which is the end of Dark Dimension 4, I would imagine that you're probably pretty close to unlocking Phoenix just through natural shard accumulation. And if you're not, then at that point, then you can go to do that. Now, if you're really hurting for a 4th character, then you could go for Shuri if you want. But other than that, you know, I just, there's a lot of other options for that 4th character. The main point here, Doc Ock, Jubilee, and Adam Warlock, they're the 3 newest Legendary characters, and realistically those are the best characters to invest in because you know that they're going to be valid for some time to come. As more and more legendaries come out, you know, and that's another thing to talk about, is that by the time the next legendary comes out, which I expect to be at the end of October, early November, which we'll be talking about in a separate video, you know, someone's going to be getting chopped off, right? As more legendaries come out, you know, some of them become less relevant. And in this case, you know, I think Ebony Maw is slowly becoming less relevant. You know, it's sad to say. Phoenix is sort of being less relevant. Black Bolt's definitely less relevant. And even though I've geared up these characters in the past, they're just not going to... I don't see myself leveling them up to level 85 because you're going to have to consider about all of the resources that you're going to have to spend into these characters and which characters are better than others. So hopefully that helps, guys. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which legendaries that you think are useful, if you think I'm crazy or am I on the right track. The key point here is that make sure you're investing in characters that you see having longevity. And for me, realistically, the newest characters, being from Doc Ock, Jubilee, and Adam Warlock, have the most potential for that. Going back any further, it gets a bit tricky. So even though I do like these characters and I have invested in them in the past, would I do it again? Not necessarily so. And that's where I'm going to end the video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this, please smash that like button and favorite and do all of that stuff that you do with YouTube and whatever. So until the next time, guys, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boylan signing out.